Isn't it weird when you are looking for a specific model vehicle to show a friend you can't find one to save your life? You know they are out there, but just not on that day. And then when you're out by yourself, all of a sudden, that is all you see. Isn't it weird that we used to have landlines and answering machines? We did not know who was calling because we did not have call display. And if we wanted quietness, we would just leave the phone off the hook so it would not ring. We did not have cell phones. Once we left the house, we were essentially unreachable until our return home. If we needed to make a phone call, we would find a payphone to make a call. Then pagers came along. When we would get a page, we would once again find a payphone and call the number to see what was up. Then cell phones came along, and pagers and payphones have basically disappeared. And cell phones have basically become mini pocket-sized computers compared to the first generation of phones from the mid to late 90s. Now I know cell phones were out there before then, but it was the 90s when things became a little more common. Isn't it weird when you're talking with your family or friends in the privacy of your own home about a topic or something, then later when you open up social media, what you were talking about pops up? Isn't it weird how selling items have changed? From flea markets to garage sales to flyers or signs on posts to newspaper ads, and now like Marketplace, Craigslist, or Kijijis. Isn't it weird you hear a song on the radio and you kind of enjoy it? Then it's played everywhere on social media. You open an app, there it is. You hear it from people when you drive by, there it is. You hear kids trying to sing it, there it is. It quickly becomes overplayed, overexposed, and then you grow tired of the song. Isn't it weird you buy a unique vehicle because the town you live in doesn't have one? Then all of a sudden you see them everywhere? Isn't it weird you want a nice quiet meal out? You find a random quiet restaurant. It looks slow, it looks quiet. You just get settled, and then all of a sudden the place gets busy. Isn't it weird you're driving in traffic in the middle of nowhere, doing the speed limit, and the speeder passes you, and then a mile down the road you pass him sitting on the side of the road. Then a mile after that he passes you again. You see him take an exit off the highway to another town, and then like 10 minutes later he passes you again. Isn't it weird how we all have stereotypes of different people, different cultures, different ideas of how people live? Most of them are harmless. They are based on rumors and false knowledge. For example, not all Canadians live in igloos, and only some of us ride a moose to work or school. Isn't it weird that sometimes friends ask you for advice? You give them advice and they choose not to listen and do something foolish. Then a month later, when it backfires, they come back to you asking for advice on how to fix it. Isn't it weird how music has changed? Isn't it weird how the ways we consume music has changed? For those old enough to remember, there were records. They were like a big deal. Then there were 8-track tapes. They were a big deal. Then there were cassette tapes. And then CDs. And now there is digital music. Many of us have purchased our music collection over and over again a few times. Isn't it weird? Aggressive drivers weaving through traffic, riding your bumper. You are going the speed limit, but they feel they are in a hurry. They almost cause an accident. They speed past you, and then you meet them at the next red light. All that aggressive driving didn't get them anywhere. Isn't it weird how parts of Canada live in an extremely cold winter climate, and they depend on oil and gas to survive? Well, the majority of Canada lives in a milder climate in the southern part of Canada. Isn't it weird how video game consoles and graphics have changed? 8-bit to 16-bit, pixelated graphics to basic graphics to detailed nearly 3D graphics to the modern kind where you're not sure if it's a video clip. It almost looks real. You know, basic cartridges to discs to digital download. Isn't it weird how managers claim they want workers who can think to take initiative, but when the workers do, the managers don't support them and they tear down the work? You feel humiliated, but a month later, the manager comes up with the very same idea that you had and then takes credit for it. Now, this one's an old one. Most of you probably won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But isn't it weird? Have you ever picked up a house phone? You know, like the old rotary style kind, where you put the receiver to your ear and dial a 7-digit number, and before you could finish, you hear someone saying hello, hello. And it turns out at that exact same moment of you picking up the phone to dial the number, there was a call coming through. Isn't it weird how the size of our homes have gotten bigger, but our family sizes have gotten smaller? Isn't it weird how movies have changed? From black and white movies without sound, to black and white movies with sound, to basic color movies that looked washed out, to vibrant color movies that looked alive, to movies that had practical effects, to movies that had minimal CG effects, to modern movies that can be made completely without any human actors, just voice actors. Isn't it weird how marketplace sellers want big bucks for their items, but can't even be bothered to clean them up? No one wants to buy your dust or dried on spaghetti. I know we all see value in our stuff, but realistically, there comes a time where the stuff is nearly worthless. Isn't it weird? On the other hand, it isn't weird when you've spent the time cleaning or fixing or making an item like new. and list it on Marketplace, and the price is quite reasonable, and then comes a flood of this, is this still available? Or the people that can't read the basic ad and ask the same questions that are on the list right in front of them. Sometimes a frustration is not worth the sale. Isn't it weird how those in charge of our future can find money for new tennis courts or to beautify the downtown core, but they can't find money to help those in need in our community get back on their feet? I guess the fancy new benches and flower beds work great for those that are displaced to sleep in and use as a bathroom. Good use of taxpayers' money. Isn't it weird how things have gotten more expensive but less serviceable? Vehicles have gone from a simple cold-blooded machine to an overcomplicated four-wheeled computer. TVs have gone from a very heavy, large wooden cabinet taking up half the living room to a lightweight, high-definition, nearly non-serviceable unit. You know, kitchen mixers are the same, air fryers are the same, you name it. It's basically a throwaway world. Isn't it weird, just when you think you figured life out, it shows you that you know nothing, and you are not in control, you are just along for the ride? Isn't it weird how politicians say one thing during an election campaign, but when it comes their time at leadership, they do another thing? Also, how every election, the voting majority always falls for the lies and deception and keeps continuing the cycle. Isn't it weird? What are your thoughts? Leave your comments below. Thank you.